Tonight on NewsWatch, they're calling it a weather bomb. The fast-moving storm exploding over the Northeast.
Plus, honoring the dead and wounded in Tucson. The emotional words today from House Speaker John Boehner.
I had debris hitting me from all sides. Within 3 seconds, the hotel had collapsed and went from vibrant color to complete, absolute darkness.
And a Haiti quake survivor tells his miraculous story 1 year later. All this and more tonight on NewsWatch. Forecasters are calling it a winter bomb, and it's pounding the East Coast. Good evening, I'm Mark Martin.
And I'm Wendy Griffith. Thousands of flights have been canceled, creating a travel nightmare. New England states got the worst of it. Some areas like Connecticut and New Hampshire received more than 2 feet of snow. As of this morning, 49 of the 50 states had either snow falling or on the ground. John Jessup has more on the storm in tonight's top story.
For New Yorkers, the third time is not a charm. The winter storm is the third in less than 3 weeks. And in the Big Apple, the goal is to avoid a repeat that brought heavy criticism after the first snowfall.
We do know that we didn't do the job that New Yorkers rightly expect of us in the last storm, and we intend to make sure that that does not happen again.
Some New Yorkers are giving city leaders the benefit of a doubt.
I think they're going to be a little better prepared.
From Maine to Pennsylvania, cities along the East Coast were preparing for the worst.
We're on a 12-hour shift, midnight to noon, noon to midnight. We have the men to man the trucks 24/7, so we'll be here.
Philadelphia and Boston declared snow emergencies early on. Philly's expected to get as much as 8 inches of snow. And commuters have been warned to brace for delays during rush hour. Thousands of flights have been canceled from Atlanta to Boston.
Try and be optimistic, and that's all we can do.
Some experienced travelers decided it was best to have a backup plan.
A car rented. We have flights booked for tomorrow, and we still have our hotel room if we don't make it.
The storm moved in from the south, where it came as a surprise.
I feel like I'm in a different state right now. I ain't never seen nothing like this in Georgia.
Unprepared and relatively unfamiliar with winter weather like this, the conditions forced stretches of roads to completely shut down, in some cases for days.
You know, we can be as angry as we want to, and there's not a darn thing we can do about it.
The Midwest also got blanketed with snow. In Grand Rapids, Michigan, all the snow and ice made for a giant life-size game of chess.
In your face, in your face.
And in Columbia, Missouri, the whiteout gave kids of all ages an excuse to have fun and wipe out sledding in the snow.
Here in the nation's capital, crews were busy pre-treating streets a day ahead of the system so that traffic could keep moving steady. But once again, the city escaped the brunt of the storm. Forecasters say the system along the northeast should clear Maine by Thursday. John Jessup, CBN News, Washington.
For more on the winter storm and where it's heading next, we turn to AccuWeather meteorologist Bernie Rayno.
What a winter across the Northeast. We had the big snowstorm the day after Christmas, and here we are barely in 2011, and we're dealing with another big storm. The worst of the storm has been across southern parts of New England, where it's turned into a blizzard. We've seen 27, 28 inches of snow across southwest Connecticut. Boston will end up with over 1.5 feet. New York City was spared, although they ended up with 9. Heavy bands of snow. That's our dark blue shading here, falling from the Boston area on northward toward Portland and Bangor, Maine. And that's where the heaviest snow is going to be tonight as our storm pushes off to the east and to the north coastal Maine. Travel along I-95 is not recommended, not only because of the snow, but the strong gusty winds on the backside of the storm. Now, snowfall accumulations, these are additional as we go through the night. The heaviest snow coastal New Hampshire, up in the coastal New England, where some spots will receive over a foot of snow. Now, here's the good news for the eastern United States. We're going to turn things warmer in the southeast, where they're still trying to melt the snow and ice from this past weekend. We'll watch a storm system head toward the northeast, some lighter snow Sunday, but then colder air comes on in behind it, so winter's not going anywhere.
Thanks so much, Bernie. We turn now to the tragedy in Tucson, where last night those in the community held 2 church services for the victims, including a mass at the Catholic Church just blocks away from where the shooting took place.
Alleluia, alleluia.
Hundreds of people gathered together to grieve and pray. The bishop urged the community to lean on each other for healing. The service took place in the same church where 9-year-old Christina Taylor Green took her first communion. This evening, President Obama will speak at a memorial service at the University of Arizona.
And on Capitol Hill today, many of Gifford's colleagues joined together in prayer. The Congresswoman and the other victims were also honored on the House floor. Once again, here's John Jessup.
On the floor of the House in which she served,
she epitomizes all that is good and rich about serving in the United States Congress.
From the mouths of friends and political foes on the other side of the aisle,
Gabby Giffords is a precious, warm, caring, decent human being.
A tribute to Arizona Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords and the 19 victims of Saturday's shooting massacre in Tucson. In a resolution, lawmakers condemned the attacks and offered heartfelt condolences to the family, friends, and loved ones of those affected.
Let their actions and their memories be a blessing to our country.
For 6 hours, members of Congress offered their thoughts and praised the heroes who risked their own lives to save many more, often teeming with emotion.
Our hearts are broken, but our spirit is not.
The resolution was part of a day of remembering, from signing a book of condolences to thinking about the safety of all members and their staffs. Behind closed doors, security officials on Capitol Hill gave lawmakers advice on how to protect themselves, like coordinating with local law enforcement when they host public events. They also joined together in prayer and offered assurances of a brighter tomorrow.
We may not yet have all the final answers, but we already have the answer that matters most. That we're Americans and we'll make it through this difficult period.
John Jessup, CBN News, Washington.
Sarah Palin has responded to left-wing critics who say she and other conservatives helped create the climate of violence that led to the shootings. Today, Palin posted a nearly 8-minute video rebuking those who politicize the killings.
If you don't like a person's vision for the country, you're free to debate that vision. If you don't like their ideas, you're free to propose better ideas. But especially within hours of a tragedy unfolding, journalists and pundits should not manufacture a blood libel that serves only to incite the very hatred and violence that they purport to condemn. That is reprehensible.
Palin urged prayer for the Arizona victims' families and said the nation needs strength to avoid stifling debate in the aftermath.
It's been exactly 1 year since a 7.0 magnitude earthquake shook Haiti. The people there are pausing today to remember the more than 230,000 who lost their lives. Here's Ephraim Graham with today's events and the latest on the country's struggle to rebuild.
Haiti's streets are a buzz of activity these days, 1 year after the massive earthquake that killed hundreds of thousands and injured countless others. But even in all that busyness, it's still easy to see the signs of devastation, like mounds of debris.
As you look around Port-au-Prince, and it's easy to be overwhelmed by the images.
Julie Sell is with the Red Cross, which has taken in more than $400 million in donations since the disaster that hit January 12, 2010. And for every organization that responded, the first priority was saving lives and finding emergency shelter.
In the last few months, we've ramped up what we call our recovery response, and that involves longer-term solutions, things like getting people into safer homes, safe, secure homes.
It hasn't been easy. More than 1 million Haitian people are still homeless and living in tent cities. And there have been even more challenges, like the deadly cholera outbreak.
A hurricane and political unrest in recent weeks. And there's no question, those things make it harder for all of us to get aid to the most vulnerable Haitians.
Memorial services mark the somber anniversary of the 7.0 magnitude earthquake. And former President Bill Clinton is in the country to talk progress with things like rubble removal, which is yet another big challenge for the poor country.
Only about 60% of what was allocated for the first year was dispersed in 2010. It's better than what some people say, but it's nowhere near good enough.
The former president says the U.S. is prepared to stand by the country in what is still a very long road ahead. Ephraim Graham, CBN News.
Operation Blessing has been in Haiti from the beginning, and crews are still there on the ground today providing relief. We spoke earlier with Operation Blessing's David Darg, who's in Port-au-Prince.
Well, you know, it's a 1-year anniversary. The mood here is very somber, of course. Everyone's remembering those that were lost and the families of those that were lost. But collectively, ourselves and the Haitian people, we're looking forward to what's going to happen in the future. This morning, I attended a ceremony at home that Operation Blessing founded right after the earthquake. And it was a really moving ceremony. We have about 50 children at the home, and each one of them planted a small fruit tree in honor of the dead that were killed 1 year ago today in the earthquake. And one child in particular named Joe, little Joe, he really moved me today. He was actually pulled from the rubble 1 year ago today. His parents were killed in the earthquake. He was made an orphan. And despite all of the hardship that he went through 1 year ago, today he had smiles on his face. He was bubbling, full of joy, full of hope for the future, and he's thriving. The little Joe's smile really represents to me what's possible in this nation, despite all of the hard that can bounce back from this. And we're seeing that today, that there's a nation of hope standing before us.
And to find out how you can help Operation Blessing's efforts in Haiti, just go to our website. That's cbnnews.com.
Coming up, culture war. Christians in Australia gear up for a battle with their atheist prime minister.
If you're an individual group or business needing a dental plan, Avia Dental offers group plans for as little as $5 per month. Now members of your group can save up to 50% or more off a high-quality dental care. Everyone qualifies, and there's no waiting or limits on visits to the dentist. Visit aviadental.com or call 1-888-431-CARE. Avia Dental since 1994. Smile, you're with people who care.
These are troubling times. The housing market has crashed. Investments in the stock market are unstable, and millions of Americans have lost their jobs. It's not too late to protect yourself and your loved ones. Our team at United Gold Group is here to help. Invest in gold, America's most reliable asset, and secure your family's future. The value of gold has tripled since 2001, and investments in gold have outperformed other investments on an average of 25 to 30% per year. And as the demand continues to increase, gold investments will only become stronger. Call 1-800-601-GOLD. This could be the most important call you make this year. Call now and let our family help your family.
If you're an individual group or business needing a dental plan, Avia Dental offers group plans for as little as $5 per month. Now members of your group can save up to 50% or more off a high-quality dental care. Everyone qualifies, and there's no waiting or limits on visits to the dentist. Visit aviadental.com or call 1-888-431-CARE. Avia Dental since 1994. Smile, you're with people who care.
And welcome back. Another wave of flooding is forcing even more Australian residents from their homes, this time in the country's third largest city of Brisbane. Today, thousands of residents abandoned their homes and businesses as muddy waters enveloped the city. Australia's military is now using search and relief helicopters and C-130 transports in the rescue efforts. The city's mayor says at least 20,000 homes are in danger. Australia is battling the worst flooding in decades.
Yes, they are, but another battle is also raging down under, a cultural battle pitting Christians against Australia's atheist prime minister and her party. Gary Lane has the story from Sydney.
Australia's first atheist prime minister is having trouble keeping radical members of her coalition government in line. The Green Party's sole representative in Parliament is pushing to garner support for gay marriage. He also wants to pass federal laws legalizing euthanasia. Prime Minister Gillard wants to put off debate on those issues for at least another year so she can strengthen her weak coalition. She fears the opposition party, led by Tony Abbott, will use divisions over social issues to bring down her government.
Many Australian Christians certainly were disappointed that Tony Abbott and his opposition party were unable to form a government.
Labor was, and they hold a one-seat advantage in the parliament. Yet Christians are optimistic that a more pro-family conservative agenda can move forward.
Concerned citizens put together the Canberra Declaration to guide elected leaders on the values important to them. Bill Muhlenberg is a political analyst and one of its authors. He says legislating the Declaration's pro-family, pro-life agenda may prove difficult because of the Labor Green Party coalition.
The very antithesis, in fact, of what we were arguing for in the Canberra Declaration. Instead of pro-life, we have a government that's pushing a pro-death agenda. It's from womb to the tomb. It's under assault. We have a very cavalier view of human life, and we're really become a culture of death.
Muhlenberg and many others believe the Australian government has gone too far in limiting Christian rights. Pastor Danny Nalaya of Catch the Fire Ministries knows the Australian court system all too well. He fought a 5-year legal battle over charges that he vilified Muslims. Eventually, he was declared not guilty of inciting hatred against them. Nalaya suggests change will come to his country when more Christians fall to their knees. Australian Christians have also held prayer meetings in their parliament building, and they've seen lives transformed throughout the country.
When we decided to do this prayer gathering on Mount Ainslie, the witches, the warlocks, and the Satanists got very upset because that's their capital. They didn't want us to come. They personally sent me messages saying, if you come, we'll attack you. But the Lord protected us. Ultimately, halfway through, these people were asking us, do you really love us? Because we stood our ground, but we loved them. And the great exciting news is 3 months later, the Satanist leader who came to attack me, I had the great opportunity of leading him to the Lord Jesus. And 4 months later, I was in his house in Canberra with my hands around his shoulder as brothers in Christ.
Bill Muhlenberg says Australian Christians need to be stirred to action. He draws attention to current issues on his blog site, Culture Watch.
It's really a means to equip the church primarily, inform them, alert them, encourage them to get out and make a difference. We just do things faithfully and let God bring in the results.
Gary Lane, CBN News, Sydney.
Up next, he spent 3 days trapped underground. A Haiti quake survivor tells his miraculous story 1 year later.
The doctor came in. I was still waking up from anesthesia. He leaned over my bed and he said, "Laura, you have cancer." And he walked out of the room. The first thought is, what's going to happen to my children?
It's pretty rare for a person as young as me to get Hodgkin's disease. You would think, am I going to be here next year? Am I going to be able to spend more time with my family? And that was really hard.
The doctor says I would like to have his wife, his pastor, and his 2 best friends present. Then you know you're about to receive really bad news. There was very little hope given to us.
I just wanted this cancer out of me. I wanted to take care of it and move on.
We saw an ad on TV for Cancer Treatment Centers of America. And when I called them, I was very surprised that they were so quick to help us.
The second that we walked through the door, I knew that was the place that I wanted to be. If it wasn't for their kindness and giving, it would be unbearable to be able to go through something like that. And I honestly don't know how people who don't get that are able to handle it.
We were looking for medical care that would help us fight cancer, not manage it, but to actually fight it and beat it. And that's what we found.
Most people thought that that was a death sentence. I knew that I wanted to fight this. I knew I wasn't going to let that happen to me.
If you're a winner and you're a fighter and you're strong, you're going to stay that way. Your mental makeup, your attitude that you've taken your whole life with you, you're going to keep that attitude.
I said, let's just do it, and let me go on with my life.
Call now and we'll send you this free DVD that shows you how the most compassionate group of people anywhere puts you at the center of everything we do. Advanced medical treatment combined with unique supportive therapies give you treatment options you may not even know exist.
Cancer Treatment Centers of America is the way of the future. Patients are now taking control of their own healthcare destiny.
I truly wondered when he had cancer if I would ever get him back. Thanks to Cancer Treatment Centers of America, I have my husband back.
American Dan Woolley arrived in Port-au-Prince just before the earthquake struck last January.
He was buried underneath the Hotel Montana for 3 long days. Ephraim Graham has his amazing story of survival in tonight's Focus Report.
If found, please give to my wife, Christina.
I love you. I've never stopped loving you or even slowed down.
The blood-stained pages of Dan Woolley's journal reflect his most desperate moments. He had only arrived in Haiti one day before the deadly earthquake literally buried him alive.
You know, I never could have predicted that this would be such a dividing line in my life of, you know, really now I look at this and it's life before this and life after this.
Woolley's work with Compassion International brought him to Port-au-Prince to capture the pictures and stories of the organization's work with poor mothers struggling to hold their families together.
I love Josh and Nathan, the joy and pride of my life.
But the father of two also left a struggle behind at home with his wife.
It's not that we didn't care for each other anymore. It's just that we had allowed the busyness of life to get in the way of the true, deep intimacy that we used to have.
Though he grew up a Christian, the busyness of life strained another key relationship.
There had been a cooling off between me and God, and the priority that I feel my faith needs to have in my life just wasn't there.
The Haiti trip offered an escape, exciting work, and relaxing accommodations.
Stayed the night, Monday night, in the Hotel Montana, and got up early Tuesday morning, enjoyed the amazing view from the Montana, and of course, never imagining what would befall later that afternoon.
The earthquake hit at exactly 4:53. Dan and his colleague had just returned to the hotel lobby, where the floor rumbled beneath them.
I had debris hitting me from all sides, and so something knocked my backpack off my back, something struck my head, I had a big gash on my head, and then things hit both sides of my legs, and then something passed right by my face. Within 3 seconds, the hotel had collapsed and went from vibrant color to complete, absolute darkness. I actually wonder at first if I am dead. I think that maybe, you know, this is it, and I've passed on.
In the darkness, he could feel his camera around his neck. He began taking pictures, using the flash to see his surroundings.
At one point, I take a picture of the elevator car, and I realize, okay, now that looks like a safer place that I can get to.
In time, he freed himself from the rubble and climbed into the tiny elevator car. He hoped someone would find him, but wondered what would happen if no one did.
I was very concerned about that. What is it going to be like when I face my Creator? So I just, right there, just came to God with nothing hidden, nothing held back. While I was doing that, I heard a voice in my head say, "You are mine."
That gave him peace as hours of waiting turned into days. He then began writing this letter to his family.
I was in a big accident. Don't be upset at God. He always provides for his children. Even though I had kind of settled my heart with God, I still didn't feel like it was my time to go.
Woolley wanted to survive and found himself worshiping God in the tiny elevator car. But after 3 days in the underground darkness, he became desperate.
And I decided to give up. And so I crawled out of the elevator and I just was laying on the rubble. And it was at that moment in the shaft above my elevator that I saw the headlamp of my rescuer as he came down and he said, I'm coming for you. I'm going to get you out of there.
The story of his rise from the ruins played around the world.
2 jours et demi dans sa cage d'ascenseur et nous précise qu'il se porte bien.
I'm still praying that God will get me out.
He lived to read that letter to his wife and children. His partner, David Haynes, did not make it, but Woolley pays tribute to him in his new book, Unshaken. It's the story of how he survived to rebuild those broken relationships with God and family.
I think the earthquake saved the life that God meant for me. He had pursued me to the bottom of this collapsed hotel because he wanted all of me.
Ephraim Graham, CBN News.
Up next, what caused these icicles to rain down from the sky and send people running for cover?
Finding video on CBN.com just got easier. We've taken all our video, the 700 Club, news, testimonies, teachings, plus our 24/7 channels, and put them in one convenient location, CBN TV. Watch what you want, when you want. It's all simple to find, and now easier than ever to email a story to a friend. CBN TV on CBN.com.
The doctor came in. I was still waking up from anesthesia. He leaned over my bed and he said, "Laura, you have cancer." And he walked out of the room. The first thought is, what's going to happen to my children?
It's pretty rare for a person as young as me to get Hodgkin's disease. Well, you would think, am I going to be here next year? Am I going to be able to spend more time with my family? And that was really hard.
The doctor says I would like to have his wife, his pastor, and his two best friends present. Then you know you're about to receive really bad news. There was very little hope given to us.
I just wanted this cancer out of me. I wanted to take care of it and move on.
We saw an ad on TV for Cancer Treatment Centers of America, and when I called them, I was very surprised that they were so quick to help us.
The second that we walked through the door, I knew that was the place that I wanted to be. If it wasn't for their kindness and giving, it would be unbearable to be able to go through something like that. And I honestly don't know how people who don't get that are able to handle it.
We were looking for medical care that would help us fight cancer, not manage it, but to actually fight it and beat it. And that's what we found.
Most people thought that that was a death sentence. I knew that I wanted to fight this. I knew I wasn't going to let that happen to me.
If you're a winner and you're a fighter and you're strong, you're going to stay that way. Your mental makeup, your attitude that you've taken your whole life with you, you're going to keep that attitude.
I said, let's just do it, and let me go on with my life.
Call now and we'll send you this free DVD that shows you how the most compassionate group of people anywhere puts you at the center of everything we do. Advanced medical treatment combined with unique supportive therapies give you treatment options you may not even know exist.
Cancer Treatment Centers of America is the way of the future. Patients are now taking control of their own healthcare destiny.
I truly wondered when he had cancer if I would ever get him back. Thanks to Cancer Treatment Centers of America, I have my husband back.
Well, Wendy, there's no doubt winter is here.
Yes, it's cold, even in the studio. And with it comes ice. But folks in Michigan are making the best of it by creating their very own ice chess game. The life-size chess set is made entirely out of ice and was carved for a new show on the Food Network. The board and pieces will be in Grand Rapids all winter, or for as long as the weather cooperates. And in Mississippi, it's ice that has some people a little jumpy. Take a look. It looks like a scene from a bad movie, doesn't it? Workers at a local Jackson television station literally ran into work today. They had to dodge giant ice spears falling from the sky. The dangerous spikes broke off a nearby transmission tower just above the station's parking lot. Look at that. I mean, that's like a giant knife coming down, and that could do some damage, not only to your car, but to your person.
Yeah, they could have died. Wow.
No, it's not funny.
That was like
not laughing. I'm
well,
not.
Why are you laughing?
I know. It's just like the video is funny. Because nobody was hurt, and I'm laughing for joy that nobody was hurt.
Of course, always.
That's all for this edition of NewsWatch.
Remember, you can email us your comments and questions at newswatch@cbn.com. Hope you'll join us next time.